Like your first one putting out there,
Yeah,
you want
yeah.
somebody else to hear it.
No. Sorry.
Oh no.
You want me to tell the story?
Where the idea came from, man.
Okay, why? The why?
Tell Danny where your idea came from.
The whole background how I got interested in cryptozoology and
Yeah.
okay.
I'm down, dude. I'm all for it. I'm all ears.
All right. So, and it's gonna go back, way back, way back. So, growing up, my grandfather would tell us this story that he once shot a monkey, but the way he spun it was kind of orangutan looking, but not really. And what was going on is my grandfather was a ranch hand. Oh, it hurts. My grandfather was a ranch hand, and he used to go out and he had goats, cows, everything out on the ranch by La Moca. This is in Laredo, Texas, too, man. So that's why it's so interesting. That's where it really sparked my interest. So he would go out, and we had a whole bunch of chickens. And one time when he was going out there, man, there was like 20 chickens missing, and feathers were just left behind. And he goes, "Wow, what kind of animal would, eat all these chickens?" And all these chickens were in a cage, a big old cage that he constructed out of a chicken wire and goat. I don't know if you've seen those square fences. It's not barbed wire, but it's kind of like a cage, heavy gauge too. So something would have had to climb over it and jumped in and then climbed back out. He looked around the perimeter and there were no holes where something would have dug in. So it's either something flew in or something kind of climbed up and jumped in and jumped back out. So then he went back the next day, and this time there were goats missing. But the goats that were left behind, something grabbed the hind legs and split it in half. So he was finding goats that were split in half starting from their rear legs. And the weird part was that the meat was there intact. What was gone was the organs, the soft tissue, liver, all the intestines and even tongues. The tongue were gone. He goes, it was weird. And this is all in Spanish. So it's a little bit more dramatic in Spanish. But the gist of it is, he goes, it was so weird because not if it was like a coyote, a predator, it would just tear it apart and eat all the good meat. They left behind the rump, the butt, all the good meat that you want. But instead, all the organs were gone, which was really weird. So he came back. He came back another day. More goats were gone. He goes, you know what? I'm done. I'm tired of this. So he told my grandma, we're gonna wake up tomorrow super early, and we're gonna come out here at the crack of dawn, before dawn, and I'm just gonna sit in the field. I'm just gonna sit in the field and see what is eating our livestock. So the next day they got up early. They got to the ranch. My grandmother stayed in the truck because it was still dark, and my grandfather kind of just sat out in the pasture, just kneeling down, and he had a 30-30. I still have that 30-30. It's the kind that you crank. Real dramatic, real westerny. It's a beautiful gun. So he's sitting out. It's twilight. It's I'm sorry, it's dawn. The sun's just barely coming out. And the grass, you can see the silhouette, like the way he describes it. Like, because I was like, where were you? Where were you standing? He goes, I kind of squatted out in the field, and it's called a labor, where they planted things. And it was end of the season, so the grass was overtaking it. They didn't have to maintain it. So it's like a meadow of buffalo grass, pretty much. That's what it's called, buffalo grass. So the sun's coming up, and he's sitting down waiting for this thing. And in the background, he says, oh, man, here comes a person. Damn it. This thing's not going to come. Let's see who this person is. This person, like, is walking. He's just walking, and it's getting closer. He starts seeing, he starts saying, is it really a person? What is that? And it keeps getting closer and closer, and he's like, as it got closer, I saw that it was super hairy, and it looked like an orangutan. And I was like, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, I'm not gonna kill something that I don't know for sure is killing my livestock, because my grandfather wasn't like that. And he goes, let me see if this is the thing that's killing all my livestock. So sure enough, he goes straight to the chickens, and he starts climbing up the fence. And he goes, you know what? That's the guy. That's the thing that's eating my livestock. So he just cracked it. He in the 30-30, it's kind of like a cranking mechanism. So he kind of cranked it, took one shot, it fell on its back, went up to it, took another shot, and killed it. And I asked him, hey, why didn't you report it? You know, and he goes, you know, one, it's in the 70s. This was in the 70s and 80s. I can't recall what exact date, but so he goes, there was really nowhere I could call. We're out in the country. And then plus this thing kind of looked, it was a monkey. He told me it was like an orangutan, but it still looked human. You know, it looked really human. And I was like, tell me, like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, it had red hair all over it. The closest animal that I can think of was an orangutan. But it wasn't too tall. It was like 5'4". It was a short one. But the thing is, he was really muscular. He was like, you could see this animal's, it had huge chest, huge biceps, the biggest hands that I've ever seen. And his arms were long. They were super long. And he was like, when I looked at its face, it kind of resembled a monkey, but not really. It still kind of had those human features. So he calls my uncle, that was the owner of the ranch, and he comes over here. And at the time, he had a business, so he had a good reputation, and he had to maintain it. So in the end, you know, they were like, just say it was a monkey, and let's go bury it in the pond, the presa. So they took it and they just buried it, and it was left there. So I grew up hearing about monkeys in the woods, and that's how my grandmother and my grandfather, because they used to take care of me and my sister. So I grew up in ranches, and I actually grew up in that ranch too. And they would never, ever let me and my sister go out into the woods. They're like, no. There's wild things out there. There's monkeys that can eat you, you know. The way they were eating the goats, they can do that to you. So that's how I initially got started. And I didn't hear about like Bigfoot until really late in my teen years. And I remember seeing, you know, TV shows that talked about monkeys, and I was like, oh, just like my grandpa. And that's when I discovered that there was a term for it, Bigfoot. Like there was a Bigfoot. There's monkeys out in the woods, and people are calling them Bigfoots. But there's tons of types. You want to switch it out?
Oh, you're good. So there's tons of types.
So there's tons of types of monkeys that I've seen, and the one that my grandfather saw, I think it was really short, but it was still orangutan-ish kind of looking. And even if I've actually wanted to go out to this ranch in La Moca and just go and see if I can dig out some bones or something. So that I've always had a passion for the cryptozoology. When I hear people, you know, talk about things that is not mainstream or accepted scientifically, like I was given the benefit of the doubt, because this has been in my family, and we weren't allowed to tell anybody, because one, we would fear that we would get in trouble, and two, people would call us crazy. We would, like, honestly, like, they'll just dismiss it, like, yeah. So I've always gone, and I'm a real good talker, and every time I go and talk to people, like I go to parties and I like to bring up kind of cryptozoology topics, and most of them are shy at first, but after one person shares a story, it really surprises me that it kind of starts a chain reaction, and then everybody in that party has a story. It just blows my mind, you know, and just people are really intimidated to tell you the stories. So I started listening to some podcasts and about cryptozoology, and I kind of I was inspired by all these shows, and I picked and chose what I liked from each show. And in the end, I wanted to create I wanted to create my own podcast, but the end goal is to share border town stories that not a lot of people share, because you'll get ridiculed, especially in the border town culture. They'll think you're crazy and they'll just make fun of you. But every time I go to a barbecue or carne asada event and I start talking to people, I mean, everybody has a story. Everybody has and I never make fun of him. I believe him, unless they're lying to me. But they haven't given me any evidence that they are lying to me. So I always believe him. And I started thinking, I was like, wow, maybe I can start curating some of these stories and just present them to Americans, or people that speak English that aren't too familiar with our culture. Because in our culture, there's so many paranormal events, cryptozoology, and even like unexplained events that happen. So I do have my own personal story that really motivated me to start it. And it happened in I think it was 2018 or 2019. I can't recall. It's 2018 or 2019. But I was living in Denver, Colorado. And my girlfriend at the time, her brother was living in a small town up north called Boulder, Colorado. It's beautiful. It's near the mountains. It's really rugged. That's somewhere, it's kind of a college town. There's a university there, and that's their main demographics. But people like to go there because of the outdoor. It's beautiful. The city's beautiful, but the outdoors is really, it captivates you. It captivates you, and you just want to go out every day into the mountains if you live there. So their aunt came from New York, and that's what she wanted to do. She went to Boulder because she's a professor, and she gave a lecture there. And on her off time, she invited us. She goes, "Hey, I want to go hiking. Take me to Rocky Mountain National Park." So we're like, "All right, let's go." At the time, I wasn't aware. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we had 2 dogs, and this is an important thing because it comes into play as to why I did the things that I did. We left at 2, and I was expecting to come back at 8. At Rocky Mountain National Park doesn't accept animals. You can't take pets, or at least some portions of it. The one that we were going to go to definitely did not take any animals. So we decided to leave our pets in our apartment in Denver. Before we left, I walked them, made sure they went to the restroom, and then fed them, made sure they had food and water. Plus, we had a little device that has a what is it called? A webcam. It has a webcam, so we could access and check up on them whenever. Plus, it's a treat dispenser, so we push a button and it dispenses treats to the little puppies, right? So that's where I felt okay. We're like, all right, let's just leave the dogs behind. Let's go with your aunt. Go meet up with her. So we took off from Denver to Boulder, and it's 46 minutes away. We went out to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and we were out there. And I mean, if you guys ever been out to that place, it's mountain weather. Mountain weather, it's sunny 1 minute, then it's raining another minute, then it's snowing another minute, back to back, and then it's back to sunny. And that's the weather we were experiencing when we were there. We went on this hike, and it was nonstop. Like, we were wet, then it was snowing, then it was sunny, and it was just beautiful, beautiful. That day, I decided to document everything. I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool day. Let me have some cool videos so we can have some memories. Let's just create some memories. So I was taking video of the whole trip. I had video of everything. We end up leaving around 7, and my ex-girlfriend's boyfriend lives in Boulder. I mean, my ex-girlfriend's brother lives in Boulder, and that's where we went and hung out. And my ex-girlfriend decided to stay there, and I was like, you know what? I have to go home. I can't stay because we have our dogs in the apartment. and I know I need to go take him out. They need to go to the restroom, and I need to feed him. So I'm gonna go home. So she stayed behind, and by this time it was already 9, and I was already getting real nervous. I was like, hey, I feel so bad. I want to go and take out our dog so they can go to the restroom, and I'm sure they're wondering where we're at. So I said bye to everyone. So it was 9ish. I drove from Boulder to Denver. On the way there, I was blasting my music. Oh, you fucking civil engineers must be on crack. But you put me in the right fucking spot. All right. I passed under an overhead passage. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw this big, large cat. It looked like the best way I can describe it that I tell people, it looked like a cross between a cougar and a panther. It was huge, it was muscular, and the thing is, it just got hit by a car. And the reason I know it just got hit by a car because it was crawling, injured. Like half of its body was paralyzed, but it was still awake where it still had the strength to crawl to the other side of the highway. And this is, I'm going right under that underpass, and it's crossing from the farthest right lane into the shoulder lane, and it was just dragging itself. It was huge. And I remember seeing this creature's muscles, like as every time it reached out to crawl further, I could see its huge muscles in the back flex, and it was in pain. I could tell it was in pain, and it was just trying really hard to crawl. This one was huge. It was huge. So I passed it, and my heart started beating. I was like, did I just see a big black cat that everybody talks about? There's numerous people out there that call in about big black cats. It's everywhere. They're called, I believe, American black cats, ABCs. That's what the term is in the cryptozoology world. And they don't exist. They just don't exist anywhere in America. Panthers. So, I was driving and I was like, should I turn around? I was like, this is once in a lifetime. I have my GoPro. Let's go. Let's turn around. So this creature was in a weird exit or a weird area on the highway because I turned around maybe 4 times. The first time I did a big turnaround, I went back and I didn't see it. So then I was like, I need to go back. And the whole time I'm thinking my dogs. And by this time it was already, the whole time I'm thinking my dogs, my poor dogs. I need to go back and let them out. But I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, Angel. Like, just turn around. So I turned around again, and on the second time, I still didn't see it. So then I told myself, go all the way back to Boulder, and take that whole line back. So I went all the way back to Boulder, did a U-turn, and it was I-25 South, I believe, or I-36. I can't recall the highway. But on that third try, there it was. But this one was a smaller one. This one was a lot smaller than the first one that I saw, and this one was completely dead. It got hit really bad, and it was stretched out on the shoulder of the right side of the road of the highway. As I passed it, I saw it, and it looked kind of like, this one looked more like a black feline cat, but a supersize cat. I want to say its body from the head to the to where the tail starts was roughly like 4 feet. But the tail was super long, kind of like a panther. It was super, super long and bushy. And I've seen bobcats. I grew up in ranches. I've seen bobcats. I've seen feral cats, tomcats. This was like nothing. It was of the same species but a different kind of breed. So I get my GoPro out and I record it, and I'm driving and I passed it and I got video of it, and that's the video that I have. And I was really trying to go back, but I started thinking this was a small one. Where was the bigger one that I saw? The one that was crawling, the one that was like, where did that one go? And I started kind of thinking like, was this the mama, the mom, and these were the little kittens. There was no way I couldn't work up the courage to go back and stop and get out of my vehicle. I hear people on shows where they're too scared to pursue what they saw. And I've always thought, oh, here we go. This is where they turn back, and they could have just kept recording. They could have just, why? Why did they do that? Until that moment when I was in that same situation, there's no way in hell I was going to get off my truck, man. There's no way I was going to get off after what I saw. And I was shaking, and I was thinking to myself, Angel, you got to go, man. You got to go do this. Just do it, man. And I couldn't work up the courage. I just couldn't work up the courage, because I knew the minute I got out of my car, if whatever that was, if there was another one, even of the baby one that I saw, that small one, that thing could have just taken me and eaten me alive with easy. It was so powerful. The baby looked powerful. Yeah. But the mama, the one that I saw, the first one that really caught my eye, it was huge, muscular, black, and it had kind of it had kind of like prints on it that were kind of like a leopard print, but it still looked like a cougar. It was like a hybrid. That's the best way I can describe it. That one was the one I was scared of the most. One thing that Colorado taught me is any female predator, when they're around their youngs, especially like if there's bears and they have cubs, do not get near them. The mama bear will attack. So that's kind of the mentality that I had when I saw that. I was like, that must have been the mom. If she's going to look for her little kittens, which were still huge, all right, I'm not going to take that. Plus, I was thinking about my dogs, and I had gone 3 times up and down. So by this time, it was already like midnight. So I started feeling bad for my dogs, that I needed to go take them out. They've been stuck in the apartment all day. Plus, I was scared. I was really scared. And I just decided, I regret it. I really do regret it. I should have just gone back and parked and just gotten off. But in that moment, I felt I know I made the right decision. I don't think I would have been here just based on what I saw. So after that, that night I couldn't sleep. I was like, wow, people aren't going to believe me. So I called my girlfriend at the time, and I told her, hey, she goes, I've been looking at the camera and you haven't gotten home. What's going on? I was like, I'm just getting home. You won't believe what I saw. So she goes, what? I saw a big black cat. And she's just like, oh my God, your shows that you watch, those podcasts, they're finally, I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I have video of it. I took video. I have a video on my dashboard cam, and I had a GoPro, and I have the video. I can show you, So she left it at that, and I showed her the video, and she goes, wow, it looks like a supersized feline black cat, typical, but just it kind of looks more like I guess like a little mini panther. It's dark black. I'd say from the head to the tip, it has to be at least 8 feet wide. I wanted to go back and measure the shoulder of the highway and measure that size of the shoulder, because the video shows it at an angle. So it wasn't perpendicular. It was like at a 45 degree when I was passing. Yeah. So the video, you're going to see the video, and it doesn't look that long, but it's because it's at an angle. If it was perpendicular, you would have seen that whole full length, which is what I saw. It was huge. And that looked like the baby. It looked like the baby. The other one, it cleared. The other big one cleared from, because when it was crawling under, it was near the edge of the pavement, and its body and tail cleared the whole shoulder width. So that one was a big one. I know that one was huge. That's the first one that I saw that was crawling. And again, that one looked paralyzed. I don't know what happened to it. But then I circled back, and that's when I saw the smaller one. And that's the one that was completely dead. It was motionless. It was just motionless there on the side of the road. Even it was dead, and I couldn't get off, man. I just couldn't get off. That's really one of the most real thing that's not believable that's happened to me. So after that, I was like, you know what? I want to hear more people's story. I'm sure. I wish I could create an outlet for people just to call in or tell me their stories. Just tell me your story. I'm here to hear you out. I want to hear you. And even, I don't tell too many people this story because they make fun of me or they don't believe me. And then I show them the video and they're like, it's, BS. So I want to create, with Cryptid Border, I want to create an environment where people can just call in or even interviewed or do field investigations about their incidents. And for me, it feels real good to get this off my chest. And I don't know why, like just telling the story and putting it out there, it feels real good. It gives me a sense of relief. Like, okay, I got it out. At least it's out there, And that's the platform that I want to create. Something, something that where people can just call in and create a community. Nobody will judge you. I don't care, what background you come from, what religion, what politics. I don't care. I want to create a platform where people can just call in and tell me their stories and get it off their chest without being ridiculed. Nobody's going to judge you. Let's just put it out there and create this beautiful community and share it with the world, just share it with the world. It's funny, my family, when we have barbecues, that's one of our favorite things to do is just share these stories because we can't tell people. We really can't, because we understand that there's a lot of stuff that's happened to us that we only understand. So that's kind of the idea that I want to start here. I want people to share their stories and then go talk to their uncle, their aunt, their cousins, and convince them to call in their stories, because I'm sure there's other people in my situation where they go to barbecues and somebody starts talking about something weird and then everybody starts talking about it and everybody shares a story. I mean, off the top of my head, one of my aunts in Laredo saw a dead goat man. Then at my cousins that come into town and they spend the holidays with us, they get constantly harassed by shadow people at my grandma's house and my house. Then I have another uncle, when he was growing up, he was outside and he saw these black figures that were heckling him and flew away. And when he was telling me the story, it reminds me of the Mothman. That's when he was describing these creatures. It was exactly the Mothman, but in Mexico. So there's so much connection of these border town Mexican stories to American stories, and I'd like to make that connection. I really hope I make that connection. Like, I really want to get that going. So, yeah, that's the whole podcast, man. That's the whole goal with this podcast. Trying to curate some stories and getting them out there, get people to share their stories, and hopefully it happens.